And I'm very honoured to go on engineers today. In fact, I'm not an engineer. My son is an engineer, so I have great respect for the engineering profession. I'm going to quickly run through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which of course I'm sure you're all familiar with, just for context. Talk a bit about possible relationships with the remarkable project, for instance, and the work you do, and Sustainable Development Goal 12. Introduce United Nations academic impact to you if you're not already familiar with it, and the role of crucially then to explore the opportunities. So I hope this is something that you can keep with you, just to very democratic achievements. And of course, where we're all coming from, I think, together in this room, is that we all know we can't conceive far beyond what our planets provide. We must learn how to use and produce in sustainable ways. And I think it's central to the work that policy which we're doing. But also, as that figure at the bottom shows, clearly there are huge differences between nations in terms of the amount that they consume. So we need to recognise those differences. But one statistic that really struck me was that every year across the globe, more than 2 million tonnes of municipal waste is generated, which was run around the Earth's equator, was being damaging containers of further up the moon. So it's a huge issue, and it's very pertinent that we're talking about it today. We've seen colleagues were there to make a difference. I'm sure you're familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 of them. We are a hub at Net for responsible consumption and production, which ensures sustainable consumption and production patterns, which is key to sustain the livelihoods of current and future generations. But of course, we must remember that the SDGs are all interconnected with each other. They should be seen as an indivisible whole. In the third year of Resolution 12, we recognise that the impacts on affordable and clean energy, on climate action, on life on land, on reducing inequality, and so on. And where I think the work that you are doing aligns really nicely with this as well, thinking about the remarkable project that goes on more about later. As you can see on the slide, at the core of the vision of this project is developing energy efficient for the Internet of Things and machine learning systems tailored to produce rural applications. And it aims to bring tangible benefits to rural communities, enabling farmers to improve yields through precision agriculture, safeguard the wildlife, enhancing rural tourism experiences. And I'm sure you can see ways in your wider work might also align with these goals. But just to make it really explicit, target 12.2 related to sustainable management of use of natural resources. Target 12.9 is support developing the country's scientific and technological capacity for sustainable consumption and production. And target 12.8 is develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable tourism, which align very nicely with the core of Remarkable's vision. And the reason I think that's relevant to detail, in the business of research, we're all about amplifying the impact of our work. And the Sustainable Development Goals are a national language and international language, a global language. Being able to articulate the impacts of our research aligned to these global goals really helps the work we do, enhance our research, enhance our practice, and actually drive policy making in the right kind of direction. The United Nations Academic Impact is an opportunity really to showcase the brilliant work that you're doing. It's a global collaboration with more than 1,000 universities across over 150 countries. We are Vice Chair of the United Nations Hub Resolution 12. University of Manchester is a Vice Chair of a club for a different SDG. But crucially, we support the SDG through research, student and partnership. We address the pressing problems facing our funds global society for our research. We're committed to ensuring all our research is conducted ethically, sustainably, and with integrity. And This gives us an opportunity as our vice chair role to give the power and platform to influence positive change. And we hope that you will be encouraged to work with us to do that. It's all about partnership. The hub itself, the hub chair is based in Pakistan. Two other vice chairs are based in Brazil, and we're based in Manchester. And our aim, which I hope will resonate with colleagues in the room and joining us online, is that the advanced SDG 12 are respecting strong independence across all the 17 networks. So our role is to incorporate the SDGs into our academic curriculum, research activities, operations, outreach and partnerships, crucially informed by industry insights from colleagues themselves. Develop different projects that contribute to research on the introduction, teaching and learning without SDGs, which of course we're going to be exemplified today. Bridge the research policy gap by fostering partnerships, sustainable development goals, with academia, governments, civil society, and the private sector. We really hope this could be a catalyst for working together. And then cultivate best practice, generate capacity building, knowledge exchange, monitoring, and evaluation. So I hope that our objectives meet the objectives of you. So that's the sort of whistle-stop tour introduction. But the point I really want to get to is this opportunities for all of us. And there are just a couple of opportunities that I want to highlight that might be of interest to you. Now, Professor Akisi is on our United Nations Academic Impact on Steering Group, and he has already available information, and we hope that he will share opportunities with you going forward. The most immediate opportunity is there is a conference for United Nations Academic Impact Hubs in Athens in October. We'll have representation from across the world, policymakers, from academics, and from the United Nations. And that's linked to an international conference on energy and climate change, which includes presentations on machine learning. So it's a very broad spectrum conversation. But what might be interesting includes brokerage something update the hardship in thinking ourselves an open call for proposals in instance of the program and establish consortiums for them. But this might be of interest to you. Please liaise with BC because it would be fantastic to think about looking for opportunities to develop consortium for publication and also for programs of research and to move them together. So that's a tangible opportunity that's coming up quite quickly. If there's interest, please liaise with us. The other thing is I'm very conscious that all of the work you do is highly impactful, and I'm sure you disseminate your work in numerous ways. But one opportunity through sharing information with us, who's been working with BC, is to post news articles on the United Nations web pages, which have a really wide reach. News stories or relating the impact you've delivered through projects. Please liaise with us, and we will do our best to submit them with you and explore that and better with them. There are lots of other opportunities to be a part of this global as well. We think we're very, very thankful for that. So thank you for your attention. Please do bear this in mind as an opportunity and find flexible, acceptable work and showcases to the world and public collaboration for the information.
Very much, please.
Yeah.
That was thought-provoking and very inspiring. As we've all heard, sustainability is of interested. Please reach out through so our deputy or directly to Manchester Metropolitan. The next on our list is remarkable project presentation because we do not have the national trends.
Don't think I can ask a question. Yes, yes, I know. Your consumption on that. Okay. Thank you for sharing the knowledge, respect in my nation. Uh, 12, no 12, am I right? No 12. Yes, yeah. Let's do 12. I don't know what you are doing to ensure that from 55 to 12 or 9 is opportunity for money.
Yes.
I don't know what you are doing. So that's what we don't need. Treat for this time. Do something about it.
Yeah. That's it.
Hands on. So maybe you introduce yourself so that okay, here. Okay. My name is
Muhammad.
I'm a permanent secretary in Lagos State Government, federally Ministry of Housing, Lagos in Nigeria. Thank you. I hope you had my question.
I do. So the question, correct me if I'm wrong, what do we do to get other countries?
Buying into the
Buying this? And I think that's a really important question because I know that United Nations facilities are really keen to have global research, particularly how global north, global south collaboration, global south partnership. So the approach to taking is really to encourage collaboration between two particular projects. What add value to what people are doing. So in terms of the marketing project that was actually from that, and also through offering this as an opportunity to collaborate. So this challenge taking to collaborate with organisations across the world, and in this case, colleagues in this room, to actually collaborate with us in ways that we mutually beneficial. So are there ways that it's useful for us to reach out to you, for instance? Is there any way that would be particularly useful for you to reach out, but for you, for us to reach out? Is there something that we could do that would actually benefit you?
because there is an agency in the Lagos State Government.
Yes.
They call it Sustainable Urban. It's the agency under the governor's office. Yeah. The governor's office. Yeah, they have I'm expecting that coordinate the activities. I don't really know whether they are where or people taking so far. That's why I'm going to share it that.
I'm sharing.
I'm going to share it. I'm going to share your contact with that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how we can come together, see how we can benefit from programs. I'll do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that would be wonderful.
I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on now next agenda, please permit me to formally welcome the chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Manchester branch, Professor Bamite, who will talk to us on smart infrastructure.
Yeah.
from MMA.
So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. Good. I've met a number of you yesterday. I just want to say first before I move into my lecture, maybe please if you could give Professor this prize another round of applause. If you don't want me to say this, but Liz is like not like she's actually mentored to me. People I look up to when I joined this university about almost 14 years ago now. She was already head of school at the time. Very supportive, helped me through all the time. So thank you, Liz. And I think you need to know it's not everybody every day that you meet an MD. She actually was awarded as a member of British Empire. Actually. Okay. I think, was it 3 years ago? Two years. Yeah, but I saw so thanks very much for that. So in the next couple of minutes, I will talk to you about a project Remarkable. And the name is Remarkable because it is remarkable. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, can you slide? So no. Okay, so for those who may not know me, probably that this is my name. I'm a research group here on smart infrastructure. So we work on different areas from energy system to connectivity to data twinning, modeling. So myself, Professor Lees, we're just like what you call forerunner. So in a couple of minutes, we are actually going to have the big elephant in the room, okay, who is the keynote speaker, but we are just trying to watch like have you watched like a major boxing fight? Yeah. So when there's a major one, there will be some people coming before them. So we are like that, okay? So Professor, yeah, Professor Akulu will actually come later. So you don't want to see that on that, but just to warm you up, that's what we're trying to do here. So I lead this research group here. And what I'll be talking to you about in the next 15 or 20 minutes is a project called Remarkable. So this project is an interesting one, and I think will interest you as Nigerian engineers because when we're drafting this proposal, so by the way, Dr. Olamide is there. You want to stand up, Dr. Olamide is the senior advisor. Stand down. The next part in AI, United System and Cybersecurity, there's Dr. Yeah, as well. Yeah, member of the same team. So we have Jeff Young, we want Young as well. So we co-created this concept at the time. I think Ola, when you ran it on the PhD, so she was running on her PhD. I was asked to lead this across Europe at the time. And then in the concept, the aim was basically to connect things, any different assets around the world, generally in the city. But as we're developing it, we realize that what we're trying to do is to connect the unconnected, meaning go to the rural areas, try to connect things that are not currently connected. How can you make them work together? So, for example, how do you go in like when you go to safari, yeah, you go on a safari. So you basically think a lion will be around at social time. This is what the tourists, the people will tell you, but there's no guarantee. So you go very early morning or but what we try to do is that how can you do it in such a way that you can go on your mobile phone and you know the lion is actually there right now. Okay, it's still with bird watchers. So instead of thinking maybe the birds will come around 12 o'clock. So they normally come in the evening. So you go there and you're waiting there with your binoculars. What we're trying to create is that you go on your phone and you basically know when they are there, exactly when they are there. Yeah? So that was the aim, and we're targeting a European project. Okay, this project funded by European government. We put all the idea together a couple of weeks before. So we started kind of thinking, well, as we're doing the literature review, I think it was Ola at the time and then Shebu. We were helping with the literature review. And we just thought, okay, there's a gap in the market, blah, blah, blah. And then you realize this doesn't make sense because actually Europe is far more connected than the rest of the world, right? So why not use Africa as the use case? So, and that was the reason why we brought in 5 African countries. So North in Morocco, South, South Africa, East, where's East? Yeah, Rwanda, and then West, of course, Nigeria. In fact, that top Lagos Business School and Footmill. So that was how we created the whole idea in Europe, about 9 partners in Europe. But in terms of application and use cases, we added these African countries. We did that strategically because we say, Africa is so big, 4 countries. Why not do North diversity in terms of language, and the South is different from North, East, and so on. And then we got £1 million to do. As I'm speaking to you, we have about at least maybe 7 people outside of the UK, outside of this department university, in different parts of the world right now. So we've been sending people for the past 4 years to different countries to actually participate in this period. So that's what I've just told. Remarkable. Yeah, it means rural environmental monitoring via ultra-wide area networks and temperature area. So it's basically using AI, digital twin, and ultra-wide network in the rural area. So these are the partners involved from different, European countries. From then we have Italy in Trieste, we have Spain, we have Alicante, Portugal, two partners, and Greece, Corfu. And in Africa, we have those 5 partners that I mentioned. So basically, one is secure and dependable sensing localization and digital twinning. We have things around connecting the unconnected, ultra-wide IoT networks. So you're looking at networks that consume low energy for sustainability and is able to be deployed easily. So we look at things like data analytics for rural IoT And all these solutions we build them, we bring them together in a way that it can be demonstrated, validated, and assessed, in a very interesting way. So these are some of things that we've done in the past 4 years. Some things being deployed, application in agriculture. So you look at soil. That's what we're doing in South Africa. I think Olamide, went there about 2 years ago. 3 years ago now. We are old. Anyway, so and so in that period, stay with them over the period. And so the aim is usually you go for like a month or 2 months, you gather data, you work with them, collaborate, not just on this project, but opportunity to do other projects. And then you publish paper with them, you come back home and then you start publishing paper. You'll be amazed by the number of publications we've actually had as a result of this project across all these 13 partners. So these are the demonstration slides. The one in Spain is actually a national park. Okay, you're creating a digital twin of the park. Like I said, you can have birds, you can have different kind of games in the park. In terms of environmental monitoring, we have one in Novi Sad, which is National Park Coastal Boras. Agricultural IoT, we have the farm in Futsmena, Mina is in the north central of Nigeria. In terms of IoT, we have University of Rwanda. We have the students right in Rwanda right now, working with them. And again, in South Africa, we have education in forest. Okay, so very interesting. So actually, we applied this one paper we published recently with a student from Spain. So the guy from Alicante. Okay, so we published a paper with them, which is how to identify birds from very far. You just take a picture of them and tells you information about their species, about different things about them. So those are some of the IoT devices that we deployed and so on and so forth, right? So that's some of the results we obtained from the project with South Africa. So I just want to wrap up by just telling you a slightly, the story we're trying to tell here is how you get funding. But in the getting of the funding, remember I told you the concept, the idea behind getting the funding asset. In fact, we were told, this is not like we're guessing, we were told we only got the funding because we had these 5 African banks. Because otherwise, our idea would have been great. It would have been a very good idea, but to be honest, what are you adding to what is already here? But we have great solutions. We also have places where we can validate them and demonstrate them. So it makes our story to be very complete. But another thing that you benefit from this kind of project is, okay, when you publish, you work with people, you work with, and more importantly, is that whatever knowledge that you acquire, you can then transfer that knowledge to industry. So I'll give you an example of how we have done that. You can guess what is this and where did I take that picture from? Anybody? Nobody will get it. I'm very sure. Not even Ola and Yakubu watching.
ABU.
No, ABU. ABU has very clean, but not on the walls, on the ground. Yeah. So this is China. We have a relationship with the university in China, the University of Hubei in Wuhan. Okay, so we actually have a university, we have Manchester Metropolitan University there that's estimated about 1,000 plus in there right now. So I think this is their computing department now. I'm a still professor there. I've stayed there all year. So I took this picture. Okay, so it's just to demonstrate to you plants on walls. So anecdotally, in terms of just word of mouth, there's so many benefits of plants when you have it on walls. Example, anybody can just give me randomly what do you think the benefits? One? Yeah, insulation, cooling. So it keeps cool. So you reduce the cost of heating, or cost of cooling, and things like that. Yeah, very good. Anybody else? Carbon, exactly. Carbon capture is actually good for the environment. Anybody else? It releases oxygen. That's a good one to the environment. Well-being. Actually, there's a research carried out that shows that as when you look at nature, it helps with mindfulness, it helps with well-being. Anything else? Mental, kind of things. Yeah, camping. What? Camping.
calmness of the building.
Regarding the plants are okay. So there's noise. If this were to be like a very noisy environment like center, it can actually absorb a lot of noise in decibel. Erosion, floods. So the water that is coming down to kind of come in, goes into those plants sometimes. So and so on. There's so many, they attract butterfly, they attract insect, biodiversity. So they create an environment that it looks like you are in the in a village or something when you're actually in the city center, right? So many benefits. But the people doing this, they've been doing it for years. So the name of the company is like One Plant. It's not far from here. It actually is about 5 minutes from my house. Okay, it's called a One Plant. We've done this for years. But they go to companies selling it the way I've just told you, the way we talk now. It's good for environment. It's good for this. It's good for that. You go tell that to the airports. All right, they won't listen to you, right? Okay, so but what we did is that they gave us money, project, and then we were able to help them to quantify this, all right, in a scientific way, scientific approach to green infrastructure. So that's what we did. So what did we do? We basically got a building, deployed, so working between myself and our team in IoT, and actually it's a team of Professor Liz Price in environmental sciences, people in the department who are into biodiversity and things like this. We work together in this project. Okay. And what did we do? We're able to quantify all that set down, and they can go to. So we deploy sensors, all right, in a building before they install these plants, and then we did after, and we're able to quantify, the particles in the air before, particles in the air after, noise pollution reduction, water consumption, the number of butterflies that visited, the number of different plants, and so on and so on, even the well-being. Right? So we're able to do that. So on your mobile phone, you can pick the mobile phone and basically see what is happening in particular place. So this is really amazing. So the water consumption in the area, even irrigation, the flood control. So we do all that using visualization platform. Very simple when you do this, but this is a very big work. So let's go to the next point. So over, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, you play this after. Then over, this was not actually part of the project, but as we're doing this project, we realized they go to each of the installations and they check the plant status to say whether it is this plant need to be replaced. The health status of the plant, and they do that manually. And we thought, why not take drones? So basically, take drones, drive the drone around. It takes a video recording of the whole of the building or a big plant, just put it in an AI, and the AI will detect the species of the plant and is able to rank the plants based on health status. If it is excellent, maybe you give it 1. If it is 70% okay, 30%. When it gets to a particular threshold, you can say replace. And if they are replacing it, they go with exact square meter of the exact species to actually replace that. In the past, they guess. They take several there, and sometimes not enough, they go back, take more, right? So we can play. So this is what we did. We started with drones because drone is a bit expensive. We actually started using mobile phone depending on application. Okay, so this is what we did at the beginning. At the very start of the project, it was square. We didn't know how to do it in a concrete so that it actually goes around the exact species. So we're doing it averagely. But now it's perfect. It gives you the exact number of plants, the species, and the percentage of health. So go to the next slide. Yeah, next slide. Use the one. Yeah, use the one that you need. So you can see, so it's giving you the exact species of plant and the health for the plant. And then this company can basically make the decision as to what to do. So, like I said, we got this whole idea from the marketing project, what we learned about IoT, what we learned about environmental measurement, and so on. And this goes into what this company is now selling as a product. I can go to the next slide. The last slide is a video. Yeah, so this last slide just play it from the video. So yeah, So this last slide, what it does is you just go to we drive a drone right around the building. It could be 4-story, 10-story building. The drone goes around. It takes that recording goes to an AI. It generates a report. The report is sent to the building owner. One report is sent to the company that is to this. So it helps them to negotiate to replace the plant. This is the cost. These are how long it's going to take us to replace all this, and they do it automatically. All right, next. So this project actually won the best of the best, not just the best of the best project of the UK in 2020. That was the element. So in all of the country, they rank it by the GP challenge went there for the best. Next slide, and then we went to many other projects. Good. So thank you. That's all from me. Next question.
Can you say the number?
Okay, okay. Very good. Question. Listen. Okay. Yeah. Ask him for me. Can you unmute? Send you on me. Okay, while we're waiting for him, any question?
Thank you very much for the wonderful my name is Chris. I wanted to find out how you were able to, the kind of parameters you use in designing the AI software. Be able to, determine the different categorize them.
All right, that takes like actually when we started, it was something that so it was here one basically this image prediction. So you're basically trying to predict the time. So when we started with the field plan, the error was very high. But we kind of trained them, we had to pay some students, which we paid them some not a lot of money. And even if there's an expert, a plant expert that sits with the student and show them the plant made this, okay? So we're able to so the later the plants, the more we get of those plants, the better the performance. Now, if you want to know the specific algorithms and to the outside of this goal, that would be different. That's what I was paying for. Maybe I will patent them. So hopefully maybe I will. But yeah. So I think what is important is that this can be replicated in any different type of application because this is just plants. It could be cars that you want to identify. It could be human. It could be anything. All right. All you need to do is make sure you identify them, and you need experts to identify. I'm not a plant expert. I'm just an AI guy, IoT guy. All right. So we got the experts. We sat down. The guy was joking. The CEO of the company actually was involved. So saying every time he is watching TV, he's just saying, okay, this client, this is the name of this client. And the more of that we're able to get, the more you get. Now they're going to the next level. How architect, they actually advise architects. So the architect can go to their website and you say, I'm building this kind of building, and I want this corridor of the building to have plants and this type to have this type. And you can press and give you the cost, how much it's going to cost you, and the type of plant, and you can give you the facade, how it's going to look like before you build. And it all started with basic IoT. And thank you.
Yes, well, thank you. My name is before that, you have the word, right? Yeah, so I've been a journalist orchard and piece of Amazon field work. I'm on part of the city field. We actually not able to do some education, line social media. Share my Twitter. Yeah, I guess the one that
So what's that? What like example? What kind of
like journal place for about battle, the blog posts, or the relevant networks, they are pretty yeah. So I don't know if for technical motivation offline is
I'm 100% sure of that because It's installed right now. They have contract with Man United, Man City, right? So they have contract with Stadium. There's about 3 different buildings around the area of whatever story. There's some story buildings that we got contract with. So I am not an expert in civil engineering. But I'm sure you probably have done that civil due diligence in that area. In my area, is basically to whatever that is done around me, I make them smart. So I try not to bother about the other ones because that's why I have interdisciplinary. So like the team from Professor Lee's team, for example, I even the work biodiversity, you asked me to differentiate it now to know what to go into the what it is I can know. And frankly, do I really want to know? Maybe not. Because what is important to me is how I acquire data, how I make sense of data, and how I make data useful to you. Now, how you interpret the data, because that's what you've done all your life, yeah, it's how you use it. But I know how I use my own. I can make it available to you. And then someone can take it from there. And that's why the world is moving to a point where it's going to be interdisciplinary, intersectoral, international, inter whatever. No one person can solve the problem of the world. So most of our work is like that. So we work with people in fishery, in say it and do know nothing about it. But if you want to know how the fish is moving and ask me to do that, I'll do that. We're working with footballers, even the football, national football team, for example. I don't know nothing, I don't watch football. I don't like football personally. But if you pay me to tell you what dribbling and how sensor can make you better, yeah. Okay, so and then football analysts can then analyze. But I'm sure they've done that. This company I want now has been doing this for 10 years. This one. So, okay, last one, and so that.
Thank you very much. Anything about you?
We have that. Well, okay, 4 times we have.
Thank you so much for thinking about the green infrastructure.
Yes. So, sorry, sir. So we call it a vertical green infrastructure deliberately, because actually we can go horizontal. So vertical because we are kind of, just to be distinctive, because the same thing can be used in agriculture. Agriculture mostly is horizontal. So you can get data about agricultural produce, about green. The same thing actually you can do that with vertical horizontal, but we call it vertical because we want to be specific about it.
But
Yes, it's different though. Yeah.
so I just want to know the type of land, possibly the roots. Don't know whether you consider that some.
Okay, do you remember the slides? So these guys, like I said, all their life, this is what they do. So actually, what they have patents. No, like the very my slide. Say, okay, no. Next one. Yeah. So this is the right. This is what they specialize in. I don't know nothing about this, but they have a patent on how this goes into this. So, sir, excuse me, I think this also may answer your question, all right? So, what they specialize in is how they be able to arrange this guy, arrange this in a very clever way that has no negative impact on the wall.
On the wall and the structure.
Exactly. Soil structure is here. So you actually have something to the soil is inside here. So you're coming from the ground. The soil is on the wall as well. So you can see this plant is going here, this also goes here, this goes to the wall. Right? So everything is planned. They've done this for years.
Okay, go down.
Okay. So I don't want to have a PhD in that. Very much now. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah.
So from data gathering,
Okay.
there if people involved in science.
So
There was the money.
thank you. Well, I feel because of that, I was trying to talk. So, with things like this, right? What you do basically, you start with synthetic data. So we know how animals move around. You create a digital twin of that, do some modeling and analysis. So, and your system is working. Okay. Next is, let's say, lion is what you want to monitor. So just put like a sensor, all right, on one of them. If it's like a cow or cattle, it's very easy, just putting around their ears, right? So that monitor every other 10 days. What with Zoetis is so Pfizer, Pfizer, yeah. So Zoetis is a Pfizer for animals. Pfizer is for human, in terms of vaccination and so on. So I work with them on traceability of animals. So like cow and so we work with a company called ERI, owned by the United Nations. Basically, that you have United Nations for human, the United Nations for animals is called ERI. It's basically the headquarters is in Kenya. So we work with them on traceability of how different kind of animals like that. Yeah, so you put sensor around them. But what is good about animals is that you don't even have to put it on 20. So you've been on safari, just put it on maybe two, lion, yeah? Most of them, they walk around, so you can basically teach them. The same with the birds. Just put it randomly on its different species, all right? People who are expert in this, they know how to do it. So we create and why this project is unique is that we are not just creating IoT, Internet of Things, or those things. We are creating a tiny one that can last for a long time without using battery, for example. So that's why this is unique. Okay, so you put that on any of those animal or plant or anything, and then we can see that anywhere in the world. Okay? Because we use different type of technology from satellite to other communication network, and we use the one that is pretty low in terms of energy consumption. And so they can I don't know, SCADA is more in the energy system, is more in this one is what makes this unique is remember we're looking at rural areas where there is no network system. So you don't have base stations because nobody lives there. Okay, so that's what makes this unique. We are trying to connect the unconnected. Okay, thank you. Cool. All right, Engineer all right, Engineer Ferdinand.
Very exciting So it has all these advantages.
Okay, what about the disadvantage of grass on the wall, e.g. reptile? That's question. Yes. So, okay, I think to affect now, reptile could be a problem. But actually, some people they think they are closer to nature if the plants attract reptiles. So you understand? You see, brother, you wake up morning and you actually play extra thinking and also back plants around. So that would be a positive rather than negative. Then in terms of damping on the walls, that's why we have damping kits in there. Right? We have kits that is actually specifically designed to house this plant in such a way that it's not damaging to the wall. So thank you very much.
Remarkable presentation.
For the article project.
Project into environmental monitoring units commendable. Thank you once again. So we're going to move forward, but we are so the chairman of the National Institute of Civil Engineers has just reported that he's on his way. So we'll progress to our keynote speaker. It is my pleasure to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Hakim. The University of Manchester, and he will be delivering the keynotes refocusing the future of engineering in Nigeria.
Sorry, just one second. So Professor Akilu is a very good friend. Is someone who has supported the NSE for many years. He actually forced me to be the chairman. More importantly, he just ran new, became when we were advertising this, he was absolutely professor. Who? Well, actually, today he's a full professor in the University of Manchester. Really important.
And
Good afternoon, everyone. I give you a second. My area of specialization is reliability engineering and safety management. Now, I'll start by saying, in case I sound drowsy, I just arrived from Vietnam this morning, got home at 7 in the morning. So 18-hour flight. So I just because I had already completed this, I literally just had showered. The title of my talk today focusing, probably discussing or rethinking the future of engineering in Nigeria. And I've specifically picked back to the basics. Now, obviously, a lot of the things I'll be showing here, most people would have come across via different avenues. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. We improvised at the end, so we had a backup. Um, Now, I'm just showing some figures here, and it's not the essence of this is just to provide context and not an indictment in any shape or form. As at the time I took this data, it was estimated that Nigerian population is 200 million. I picked Ghana just because of proximity and because of the commonality between the educational system and curriculum and so on. Ghana, on the other hand, is far less than Nigerian population, about 24.4 million. Now you see from the second data point, 61.2% Nigerians have access to electricity as of 2023, and compared to the 90% in Ghana. Again, 41% of people in Nigeria have access to internet. Now, the scale or the frequency or the duration, I'm not capturing here and I'm not emphasizing that here. Just access. So what that access means, here another definition, whether functional access over time, so on. Compared again to 75%. Now, we know all of this accessibility have implications on development, on collaboration, for example. So, the more people have internet, easier it is to use research as an example, considering that we're in an educational institution here. More people will be able to access papers, for example, and the more people access paper, the easier it is research community, the easier it is to attract collaboration, the easier it is for those people to be involved in international projects and so on and so forth. So there's a gap there. And then the last part, about 3.5 million going to the labor market as compared to 0.3 million in Ghana. Of course, if you normalize that data, representing the population, you'll be having something like 1.5% in Nigeria and 0.9% in Ghana. Now, it's not all negative. Like I said, the data points earlier are just meant to give some context. So there are positives, okay? So we can turn all of those data points into strengths. And of course, with every strength, there are also some limitations. So some potential there, GDP of Nigeria grew up by 4.1% in of 2024, which is always a good thing, especially with the size. Manufacturing growth was over 3% in the first quarter of 2026. However, the industry's employment share, so the amount of people that go into industry, and by industry, we're looking at manufacturing, digital sector, and so on and so forth, only rose from 11.3% to 12%, so about 1.4% over the period considered. Our 93% work in informal business. So what this means is you have a lot of graduates, maybe people drive people, or cadres as we call it, and so on and so forth. And that's an indication that the industry, while GDP is growing, but the core industrial sector is not actually absorbing a large fraction of the people produced from educational institutions. Now, what I also wanted to mention here, I want this talk to be as interactive as possible. So I will be constantly asking people to contribute views and so on and so forth. And I've left an email at NSE Manchester for us to carry on the conversation. So my question here is, why has engineering not converted the national potential into a resilient system at the scale at which we're producing people into the labor market? Of course, some of the answers are obvious, and we see as we progress. So what do we, in engineering terms, what do we mean by basics? Again, these are things we're all familiar with. So, of course, when we talk about engineering, what comes to mind would be maths and science, as we were told. I did my first degree area, as I believe a lot of us did. Well, we were taught that engineering is the application of science to make life easier. That's simple. So you would think math, science, mastery, which are fundamental, measurements, drawing, design logic, and so on and so forth. So those in black are what I think are currently covered exhaustively in the curriculum in Nigeria based on research. And those in red are those areas that are just existing sparingly, so not included. And like I checked, most of, for example, programs in Nigeria that cover things like maintenance or things like reliability, safety, ethics, and so on and so forth are more at CBE post graduation level short courses. So, of course, it's not a problem in Nigeria alone. In UK, we're still developing programs that begin, for example, University of Manchester just launched a course unit at undergraduate level called Engineering the Society, and we're making that a proposal. And that is looking at things like ethics, things like how engineers view society, and so on and so on. Now, besides all of these fundamentals, the 1 to 6, you can see some points in there, like building information modeling and digital twins. The prof spoke about AI, which we all consider maybe the next big thing since sliced bread. It's not something we can all run away from. Robotics, virtual reality, and so on and so forth. These are enablers. But are they always? Depends on how you look at them and who's looking at them. Some have actually classified them as maybe having some negative implications of the engineering profession. We'll see that as we move on. Okay. Now, the first basic, like I said, we'll be looking at basics. I think there are about 7 of them. Over the years, engineering has transformed, and I do not think we can. Of course, some of those transformations have happened at very, very rapid rates. So the way we find what we do in engineering also needs to match the transformation. So for example, rather than looking at what technology we can buy, now a lot of African countries, Nigeria, we adopt technology, we import technology. It's not really a bad thing in every sense. Or sometimes when you do that, perhaps you should be doing it with the intention of learning from that so that you can develop yours and improve probably what you have. What works elsewhere that we can copy quickly. So rather than looking at things that would work fast all the time, sometimes you might need to do it if there's an emerging problem that needs an urgent solution, but not all of the problems will require rapid solutions. Okay. What looks modern enough to impress stakeholders? And this is a very important one. When we talk about stakeholders, sometimes we look at the fund providers. So when we look at schools, for example, I think a very important group of stakeholders we're missing out from our process, be it accreditation processes or even policy implementation, are the students, for example. So, for example, in the UK, it would be very common for you to have what we call student voice committee, and those committees feed into your accreditation process. So when accreditation bodies, or like we call them PSRPs, professional and statutory regulatory boards, bodies come to institutions, they also want to speak to the students because everything you see, they provide the funds for you to do what you're doing, and whatever you're developing is for them to take into the. So their views should be primary to everything we're doing. Okay, so we need to move on to framing better questions. For example, what is the actual problem and who experiences it? Now, again, if you go back to the institutional example, the direct impact of our policies are on the students and of obviously the parents that provide funds. So they should be part of everything we do. I'll tell a very short story. For those of us that schooled around the time I did in Nigeria, you would agree with me that there were maybe like 4 fundamental disciplines: medicine, engineering, law, accounting. So it takes up, and every other thing is subset. Okay. Now my oldest son just finished GCSE, so it's that anxious moment for waiting for results. I think we get actually the actual consider. So, and as always, the mom wanted him to study computer science, and for obvious reasons, some of those enablers I showed earlier. AI is the age of AI, it's the age of computing. She wanted him to do computer science, with maths, and because he's capable, he's good in maths. But once you told him you want him to do computer science, maths requirements, he began to treat maths because he wanted to do law. He wants to do law. And I now said, okay, maybe we're asking the wrong question. And I asked him, why do you want to study law as opposed to computer science? He said, every time one talks about computer science, talks about AI, machine learning, is the future. He said, from his point of view, those are actually the things pushing him away. He said, because in the next few years, with the rate at which AI is transforming everything, would you really need computer scientists when the AI algorithms have learned everything by and begin to actually generate the knowledge themselves? He said, well, he thinks as a lawyer, he thinks the bigger problem in the future will be that people will begin to misuse AI. There will be lots of litigation. So I was okay. Well, I didn't know how to make it. So so that's what it is. The way it is. But and that was very important. So this is so again, we need to think beyond just using the tools, but actually framing the right questions for the tool. Maybe the knowledge itself, of course, the tools are very useful. Of course, I had inputs from there. I didn't into the slides. Okay, as you will see, I declared at the end. But of course, I think what we should really be training people on is the critical thing: how to generate prompts, how to use how many prompts you need to generate in order to get to a solution, how to optimize that process. Now, there are disciplines that have had this training as part of their development over time. We'll see that later as well. So here, I've just put this here to provoke thought. Potential risk of emerging technology spending. Now, will the humanities and social sciences benefit more from emerging technologies such as AI, hence reducing the relevance of engineers? Prof, you would remember in one of our technical sessions we had, I think a member raised a point that they invested X amount of money to learn graphic design. And upon finishing that training, you realize, I think it took them like over a year to get that certification. And upon finishing that training, you realize that everything they learned, AI could do it in a few minutes. You know, how much that certificate can at least help employability. And so I put this figure on the bottom right hand corner there. So I was involved in developing a proposal for grants, a multi-million pound proposal, and obviously it was a multidisciplinary institution. We had the technical reliability aspect, we had the AI, we had social sciences that would look at technology diffusion testing and so on and so forth. And we had all these partners from the industry and what the amount of money to generate, so much information. And we're thinking of how to put them together. As a typical engineer, we're thinking of flow charts and so on and so forth. And one of the members from an SME, they purely social sciences. They put this figure together, and he pulled everything together with less than an hour. Okay. And he just captured every single thing he wanted to develop, to put together within minutes. And then we began to ask, but then social sciences by nature are trained around philosophical thinking, how to define a problem, how to ask questions to generate the answers. So my question here is, if you are able to generate the right question, do you need to go to an engineer to develop a model? I'm not asking for the answer here, but so that was the rationale behind. If you're able to create, so maybe should we now be learning social sciences to teach us more on how to be very critical in our thinking, particularly around defining a problem? I think there is an opportunity here for engineering. Okay? Because obviously, if you define your problems clearly, you save yourself time, save yourself the amount of prompts you need to put into AI, and so on and so forth. And it makes your work more repeatable, which is always very, very crucial with standardization. Now, second basic, and here we're talking about what credible, of course, all of this, I believe we all know. So fundamentals, ability to safely design, analyze, build, test, and troubleshoot systems should be developed in this. Comfort with measurement. So engineers should be very comfortable with measurements. Now, drawing interpretation. Of course, there are so many platforms. When we say drawing and interpretation, we're not only talking about drawing PNIDs. It doesn't all have to be on paper. There are all tools. But what we find here, and from my role as head of education for the School of Engineering, of course, we have tools like SolidWorks, Autodesk, and so on and so forth. We've gradually lost that ability to understand what each of those symbols mean within those drawings. So when we learn technical drawing or engineering drawing, you will understand what the different lines stand for, where you should use a line. So once you see an object with a line, you know there's a detail there. There is a through hole there because it's a thin, long chain or a dashed line and so on and so forth, Even right up to how you find your title block, bottom right hand corner. So all of this, maybe we don't need to go back to paper, but of course, we can embed that rather than just knowing how, because that's one of the problems we have. We know how to follow interpreting the outputs of the tools is what is lacking. So what we find is when you change the scenario, maybe you're asking the same question but in a different form, people are unable to connect with you. Okay. So again, and things like understanding how things feel, not just how to assemble them. Okay, readiness for supervised practice in real life. Now, I was reading I came across some data, and it said something like around 67, between 67 and 72% of multinational organizations operating in Nigeria now, and when they recruit students, they recruit graduates through graduate training programs. Graduate training programs are really good, but they also tell us something, right? When 72% of the graduates have to go through graduate training programs, it only tells you that there is a disconnect between what the university is teaching and what the industry wants. So should we start thinking of collaborating with those industries, bringing in some of those things they need into our curriculum, so that the money they will spend on the graduate training program, fraction of that can be given to the university to actually enrich the curriculum. I think it would be a win-win for everybody. I worked in Lafarge, I was in Lagos and different Southwest locations in my previous job. And we trialed the program in our polytechnic and the technique in Bauchi. And we had, we have the placement called the IT, where students go to the industry, but we also trial that with lecturers. So bringing 2, 3 lecturers to the industry to also see what the students learn. Because the feedback we got when those students that came to those international companies for IT returned to class, they challenge the lecturers because they've seen how it works and they're like, oh no, well, this is theory, but in practice, you need to build in this factor in order to get this number. This is the rest of the practice. So we had some lecturers come and we attached them to supervisors within the company. It was all free. They were given accommodation. It was a pilot, okay? And we were hoping after some years, maybe I don't know the industrial training fund or whatever to kind of push that idea forward. But I don't know where it is now. So then I was the head of training and development at that time. So this kind of two-way initiative needs to increase. Okay. And of course, I'm just picking back from what we find with current, so trustworthiness, truthfulness, and all of this talk from ethics. Okay. Now, ethics should not only be when people come in practice. It should be part of what they also study. Okay. So when people write their final year, maybe there should be a section on students explaining what the impact of the project they've done beyond ethics and how to mitigate that. So we put that in. Another thing could be sustainability. So we introduced something at the School of Engineering in Manchester. For every project, there has to be a section on defining the implication of your project on EDIA and sustainability. So that way you would know you're not only doing the technical bit, but you understand how what you've done technically will affect people, will affect the society, are you consuming, are you proposing too much material? What would be the sort you want to use fiber reinforced polymers instead of steel, and so on and so forth. So it will make people think more critically. And then, of course, there is the issue around mentoring. And I always say this, most times when I go to Nigeria after a year or two, and they tell me, and I'm like, oh, there's always a new school, a new secondary school, a new hospital. Like, oh, what happened to the other? Oh no, we go to this one now. This is much better. So I think rather than that again, that culture of making new things, perhaps we should think a lot around the practice of mentoring. I was speaking with the dean for Faculty of Engineering the other time. I think they're trying to also build a new program called Maintenance Identity Engineering because they said a lot of companies have been reaching out to them and there's also an explanation around that. When you import a lot of your equipment and technology. Obviously, when you need to maintain them, you need to go back to the OEM manufacturer. So you're not, and it's one of the reasons again why the industry is not absorbing, providing enough technical jobs. A lot of those jobs coming from outside. Okay, so again, we need to rethink our basic ideology. I've been told I have 3 minutes, so I'm just moving through this. Again, the same thing that applies to safety ethics also applies to standard. Okay, we should also be teaching standards. We should be teaching students how to teach standard and what standards apply to what they're developing in their projects. Okay, they should be able to map the outputs of the projects that are from the guidance or against the relevant standard. That way they will understand they're not only going to start learning standards when they become chartered or when they become registered engineers, it becomes part of them. Okay. Now, again, here we're talking about evidence and response. So we've already, a lot of research outputs have already pointed towards the gap between, and I've already mentioned this around the graduate training programs and what universities are creating. A lot of projects have already identified this. So the IDEAS project by the World Bank years ago identified this as a major gap and a major limiter for economic development in Nigeria. So that's also one thing, one area we need to strengthen. And when we say collaboration with industry, so when I speak to colleagues in Nigeria, IT or placement doesn't have to be the student. It's not only about working where people operate machinery. It could be where people design things, it could be in an office, it could even be virtually online. Okay, so it's just that skill that allows the student to connect what they learned in school to what they might be doing in the industry. So I think we just need to broaden our scope. It's not all about investing capital. It's also about, so there are lots of us here. I was giving an example. PTDF, for example, used to sponsor around 100 PhDs and maybe 150 or 170 master's students every year to do it. That's a lot of people if you consider that they've been operating since the 70s or thereabout. Now, I was asking, do they have like a cluster that shows, okay, over this time, we train so number of people in digital communication, so number of people in flow assurance, so number, you create those clusters. Where are those people? What are they doing, at present, and so on and so forth. So you can actually market this information. When those big oil companies or those multinationals want to recruit, you say, okay, we have this database, and these are people who trained in this area, and these are the classes of degrees they have. This is the expertise. You can advertise on our platform. You make money from that. Okay. And to the recruiters, you're giving them a pool of assured graduates who have gone through very rigorous training and so on. And on the other side, those of us that are here, if there are projects that are linked to national policy, okay, we want to do this, can you recommend some project topics, considering what you're doing in University of Manchester and so forth, that will help align our students with this policy? We can always draft a list of topics. And I believe myself, Prof, and others like us would not mind, even, contributing, even if it's one meeting over 6 months or something, to just give some insight. So it's not all about putting money in. We have a lot of resources. I think we just need to look beyond foreign scope. And of course, here, the seventh basic is just showing some of the things to consider in our design and decision making and where we should be headed from. Of course, there are policies that are already looking at this, like the National Science, Technology, and Education Policy, and qualified and so on, qualified. They're already looking at creating a competitive economy through advancements in science and technology. So there are lots on paper to tap into. I'm just trying to move us as quickly as possible. I won't spend too much time on this, but these are some of the things I think I was looking at. It just summarizes some of the points I've spoken about areas so reviewing fundamental stories, practical activities, ethics and safety, not just treated as optional, but non-negotiable, academia, industry, collaboration, and that can take so many different forms. Okay, we can exploit the relationships we have, and we can create some seed funding as well. Okay, then of course we need to monitor whatever it is we're doing. Most of the time we look at lagging indicators. So we look at things, we look at outcome, but we need to be predicting outcome from inputs as well. So for example, rather than just looking at satisfaction of the employers, should we also be looking at how much the proportion of people from the industry that are in the advisory boards of our universities? Okay, should we be looking at the amount of projects we're giving to students that have been donated or that have come from the industry? Because those are reflections of the things happening in the industry. So I believe this slide will be shared. So I won't, and I'll just leave this on board as a final message to our young engineers. So we should think clearly before we automate. It's not all about automation, it's not all about robotics. Robotics, automation, for someone that has worked in the industry for 12 years, not every automation, not every solution comes from automation. Sometimes you might want to make some of your manual systems more optimized, okay? Respect standards, master software and tools, but first master the fundamentals behind them. Okay, and yeah, that's just everything we covered in the logic diagram. And the last slide here is I'll put these 3 questions up, and we would love to hear from you. I've provided the email there, info@nftmanchester.org.uk. Please, love to hear your views. You can post your views and your comments and ideas to us via that website and via that email address. Sorry. So thank you very much. It was rushed. I thought I had 30 minutes. So I'm happy to.
So thank you very much. I would give a help for another people. What we're going to do quickly right now is our chair NSE will come forward and introduce himself. He needs to leave like now. So while we will do that first, while you rest from your long talk, then after him, we kind of give question. We will come back for your question and answer, and then we do. Yeah, we just have 2 more activities to the end. Yeah, we're going to finish before time. That's the plan. All right. So thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Tokunbo Akinam, fellow executive engineers, national chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Civil Engineering. I'm very happy to be here in Manchester. Unfortunately, just got through that. My flight is in 2 hours.
Yeah, we can.
Out of the meetings. But it's a great privilege to bring you this today. I wish it was under different circumstances to but even then, something germane and critical to me, as a person and to a lot of us, is the backward integration of the diaspora in Nigeria. Your money is not enough. I see it in medicine. I see it in law. I don't see it in engineering. I see it in sports. A lot of diaspora-based sportsmen are doing great things in Nigeria. And I think it's time that people are trying to sending money, because it's not just about your money. There is more to it than your money. So there's a lot more we need to do, and we must be intentional about it. In this system, whether the diaspora is actively engaging Nigerians, not a group, not based on just but a system that intentionally measures performance of what the diaspora is integrating in Nigeria. And when we get to that stage, this collaboration becomes more fruitful and mutually beneficial. How do we do this? It is critical that the diaspora must begin to create access. What we have today is a few individuals relating on a professional level with a few individuals in Nigeria. And please don't tell me that the system back home is bad. Please don't say that. Because it's a cheap excuse that all of us have used for years. We can always preach it. We can always preach it. When there is a will, it's a will. We cannot afford to say system approval. Because trust me, the lawyers have done it successfully. Medical practitioners have done it very, very successfully. The sportsmen in diaspora, they have done it very, very successfully. There is nothing stopping creme de la creme, the engineers, from doing the same thing. If we put our minds to it, we develop a system and a strategy that allows us to cross-fertilize. I'm sure that the engineers in the diaspora will become the blessings that God brought you here to be to Nigeria. The time is now for us to begin to think outside those tiny boxes and see the bigger picture. So that when next I come to NSE Manchester, what I want to see is that we have a program that intentionally addresses problems in Nigeria with Nigerians at the center of it. My very strong belief, and I've done this for 35 years, is that Nigeria will get better only when Nigerians roll up their sleeves and do the work. Either they are in the diaspora or they are in Nigeria. At this point in time, I'd like to say a very big thank you to NSE Manchester for hosting us. And we're hoping that next time we'll be here again, bigger, stronger, and better. Thank you very much.
So invite engineer function to your.
Oh, confirmed.
No,
When the customer, something.
2 minutes to come. Your head.
um, engineer FNSE. So what we're going to do now is the inauguration of the Civil Engineering Division for NSE Manchester branch. And I'm going to call upon Engineer Professor Books to come out because he's the pioneer chairman of this branch. And but it's a brand new doctor and also a common significant. So please, if we have other senior engineers that are members of NSE Manchester branch, please can you come out? Do we have other?
Okay. Yeah.
Although he's worried, but I was speaking to him this morning. I've said he needs to. We met while trying to get here. I saw him in native and I said, this man will be coming here. And from my normal style, I started speaking to him. Okay, yeah. So, do we have any other civil engineers in the house?
there are plenty, but they are not Manchester.
All right. So, civil engineers, very great. So, I will now call on engineer Kumi Akibago, FNSC, to continue with the program. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Very quickly, apart from engineer Janos, we have the former national chairman
of the Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers, Engineer Dr. Aisha Umar, FNSE F9, and we have the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers, Engineer Mrs. Adeleke. Please can you also step forward so that this inauguration will be complete for the civil engineers in Manchester here. So, because I'm not civil,
Yes.
I'm a former national chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Mechanical Engineers. I would like to invite some very, very senior engineers that we have here. We have the Director of Office of Training Services for Lagos State Government, Engineer Jadi, FNSC F9. We also have in the house another director who is with LASEPA, Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Engineer Dr. Sheson Odukoya. Chemical.
If you are not fortunate,
And
like parks on fire, don't do anything for this thing. Thank you very much. Those in the Manchester branch, are you visiting for? Those in Manchester branch, thank you so much. Because the numbers will be aggregated over time. Would respectfully request that this will not be an inauguration. It's just internalize nice and then we take off from here. So we follow protocol appropriately. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Council of Engineers, class conferred with me as national chairman, today hereby inaugurate the National Civil Engineers Manchester chapter. Hearing from. Thank you. Just first time around. There is civil engineering that class.
Quindi parliamo a program. Program. Imparare. So we can use sugar for
No, no, really no.
Yeah, well, that's
Everybody's generating and doing it. I like it.
thanks to that. I do.
The model does.
Okay.
Just to reduce carbon footprint.
Yeah, well, that's what do we. Before I'm from there. Strong out from here. Oh, you know, or you could reflect that, yeah, not.